Welcome to Business Infrastructure, the podcast about curing back office blues of fast-growing businesses. If you're a business owner or operator looking for practical tips and solutions to scaling your business in a sustainable manner, you're in the right place. Now here's your hostess, 𝗕𝗂𝘂𝘀𝗶𝘃𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗂𝗃𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀
Infrastructure, Curing Back Office Blues show. I'm your hostess, 𝗕𝗂𝘀𝗶𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗃, and today actually marks our 50th episode. Woo! I'm so excited. And I'm really happy because I'm joined today by Mr. Carl Reid. Carl is the founder and CEO at 𝗕𝗂𝘀𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗃 Intrapreneur, a technology consulting and leadership development company. With business travels from the mailroom to the boardroom, he knows what it takes to be successful. In addition to being a technology project manager, social media influencer, and successful entrepreneur mentoring other people to develop business startups, Carl is also the author of 2 published books, 10 Powerful Networking Secrets of Influential People and 10 Powerful Networking Tips Using Business Cards, the Global Extended Edition. Look, it's no secret. We talk about this all the time on this podcast. As small business owners, we have to constantly remind ourselves that our employees are not entrepreneurs, but they can be intrapreneurs. And today, Carl is going to share with us how he helps his clients dramatically increase their sales by developing these intrapreneurship programs for them, specifically using his edification process. I can't wait to learn more about this. So without any further ado, Carl, welcome to the show. How are you today?
I'm great, Alicia. Thank you for having me today.
My pleasure. Let's get right into it. The first time I ever heard the word intrapreneur, and that's with an I, not an E, for those of you listening, it was actually when I was taking some entrepreneurship classes in business school. And I just thought it was such a fascinating concept. So can we first start with you defining exactly what an intrapreneur actually is?
Absolutely. So an intrapreneur is a person that is employed at a company, but they have an entrepreneur mindset. So they think like a business owner in terms of solving problems, how they approach daily processes at work. And it usually puts them in a key position in an organization to get more recognition, to get promotions, to get increases in salaries, rather than just the standard way that employees go from day to day. They empower themselves with their approach, with having that entrepreneurial spirit, whereas a regular employee actually, they kind of wait until they get their reviews at the end of the year. And now, but 𝗕𝗂𝘀𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗃 Intrapreneur takes it to the next level, where an intrapreneur is working towards helping that company, but 𝗕𝗂𝘀𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗃 helps other intrapreneurs develop their career, fine-tune that entrepreneurial spirit in running themselves, their career as a business, just like being IBM or being another name brand company, but they're a business. They are a business.
So you're operating or functioning as a business within a business.
Exactly.
For the purpose of helping that company, obviously.
Yes.
Do you find that your clients, are they quick to embrace that concept, or do they have some reservations?
Well, actually, I'm going to say the last 4 or 5 years, the intrapreneur programs are being embraced at senior levels. CEOs, senior executives are embracing it. Human resources departments, because they see the benefits. They're bringing products to market faster using intrapreneurial programs. Way back in the day, IBM, when they first started making laptop computers, they actually started that intrapreneur process. They created a separate company, and 3M had that same type of program, but it's actually taking hold. It's a lot more, I wish more employees would embrace it. It's not for the average person, because it does involve taking risks, and a lot of employees don't like to do that.
Yeah.
there's rewards that come with it, but there's risks but there's ways that entrepreneurs learn how to avoid the landmines, create connections, and get champions to champion their projects in a certain way that they minimize those risk factors.
Do you help your clients determine who the intrapreneurs are within their companies? Or
we help them, we ask them first if they have identified people. A lot of times they don't because they're not sure what it is.
Right.
What they're even doing. So we actually have a guidebook that we will share, and we have some orientation approaches that we'll use with the senior executives and managers to get them to understand what it is so they know what type of person, almost to build, I'm not going to say a profile, but a character recognition to see who might be the best qualified to start out with doing it. We don't suggest to people to go out and do it by department, pick people individually, maybe one person from 3 or 4 different departments that may represent those daily interactions that they're going to have anyway, and that usually creates a nice foundation to start off with doing things.
This is really fascinating to me. Can you share an example, or just kind of share with us in general, without, obviously spilling any of or divulging any of your intellectual property? Can you share with us what your edification process actually looks like as you go into these companies and you're essentially creating a savvy entrepreneurship program for them? Can you kind of walk us through what that process looks like?
Oh, absolutely. And this edification process, basically, it's the main problem that many companies face, whether they're large companies, medium-sized, and small businesses starting out, is trying to minimize their time spent with business development. Maybe a business owner or an entrepreneur is doing it themselves, or maybe they're a large organization and they have a department or a group of people that are doing their business development. And we want to be able to maximize more of the outcome at the bottom line to increase the income and the market share, but not spend as much time with business development. And the cool thing about edification is that it's easy to implement as a daily habit. And what edification is, at its very core, is basically it's building a person up. It builds their confidence. It makes them feel good about themselves. It builds teams up. It builds up the interaction. It's a low-cost way of creating buzz for a company via word-of-mouth advertising, even with their clients. It facilitates collaboration and cooperation, especially if we've had instances with clients where they've had some difficult coworkers, but the edification process, as it goes through its paces, they actually start to be engaged. They lower their guard. They're less difficult. They're a little bit more cooperative, and that's phenomenal. But I've seen that happen. It's just blew me away to see that the morale booster for everyone, because if people are working well together and getting along better, the end result is going to happen the way clients envisioned it to happen, in terms of minimizing the business development time, but maximizing the market share and expanding it and creating more income for the organization.
Now, tying this back to what you were sharing about IBM and how they kind of pioneered this concept of entrepreneurship, how does this edification process actually spark or trigger innovation, Carl, within some of these companies?
Well, that's a great question, and then you're basically talking about what the results are going to be in terms of what's going to happen when we do this and we all get on board with doing it. Just as a finer point, to just say that anyone that understands the concept of networking and developing relationships, that edification is the super glue that binds people together. And when it comes to clients, using edification with clients or vendors or strategic partners, which may be vendors that they have a little bit more closer relationship on a daily basis, that it gets them to become raving fans and evangelists for that particular company, their product, or their services. Because people do business with people they know, like, and trust, edification helps build that trust, because people, and they may not buy into a person's service or the organization's products right away, but there are over a period of time that trust is built, because and one of the ways of doing that with clients especially is to share their products and services. And I'll a little bit later on talk about some offline and online ways that function actually happens. But the most important thing is that edification builds trust, and you can't replace that for anything. It's invaluable between coworkers, between clients and vendors, even at home. Edification is something that we can do even at the home level with doing stuff. And if you do it at home, it's going to transfer into how you do it at work just as well.
Obviously, in order for, and I'm thinking about your comment about how sometimes employees don't want to assume risk. And so one of the things that came to mind almost immediately is, what if you are an intrapreneur, or you're thinking about developing an intrapreneurship program within your company, and you may have some managers who are resistant to having this type of a structure. Can you talk about that a little bit? Like, how do you?
Well, I'm so glad that you brought that up, because edification, just like any program or new concept that's brought into an organization, it absolutely has to come from the top. If it doesn't get traction and foothold with CEOs, senior vice presidents, executives, all the way for it to trickle down to the frontline staff, it absolutely has to be that way. And the way that we engage senior leadership is through, again, we have our orientation process that shows them what the benefits would be in terms of, the higher morale part and the collaboration. And we get them engaged by asking them, what problems are you having? What's irking you? What is it that you're looking for your organization to do? And we certainly we're looking at the strategic plans, their mission, helping them fine-tune it if they need to, but not changing the way they necessarily have to do business. A lot of people like to implement systems, and they feel, well, you got to adjust stuff. We work within the realm of the way the organization is operating, but it's something that, just as simple as doing edification exercises between what I do when I run a program with executives. I find out as much as I can about each one that's going to be there, know what they are interested in, what they like, not just on LinkedIn, but on Google, find out and start that process. And I'll spotlight that as I start the process with them, to go through, speak to each one of them individually and as a group, because people want to be edified and have their peers recognize them when you recognize them. Hey, Steve, I see that you're into little league there, and you coach that sometimes. I said, that's fantastic. My son is involved in doing something like that, because it helps meet people at what their interests are, to start making those small engagements with them, and from there you build the trust. In a group meeting, that same person, I might say, Steve, you mentioned the other day about how you resolve the problem and issue that, we could probably implement this edification. I thought that was fantastic. You're on the cutting edge of what you're doing. The key thing about edification is when somebody says something, it has got to be sincere. It's not a matter of saying it just for the sake of saying it to butter people up, because people will see right through that. It must be sincere in every way, shape, and form when we, compliment someone. But the cool thing about edification, you put the spotlight on that person, and when we start out, take baby steps with senior executives there, that spotlight actually reflects back to the person who's actually doing the edification. Even to make introductions where the senior person is introduced from a lower ranking person, that's edification too, because it builds trust that way, to say that this is the reason why you should listen to this person, because they have these credentials. Similar to almost what you did with my introduction today. It's that kind of thing as well. Mm-hmm. That was edification. I appreciate that.
Well, it's also interesting to me, this idea of intrapreneurship, because you mentioned it helps companies, and these, considering our audience is small business owners, but there are corporate executives who also listen in. So for those who own and manage the companies that they are associated with, this idea of saving time on business development, because one of the things that so many business consultants and management consultants will tell you is, oh, stop doing the mundane day-to-day administrative tasks so that you can free up your time and spend more of your effort on business development. But what you're saying is you can even free up time on business development just by treating people with, by going through this edification process. So business development, I promise I have a point here. Business development is about external selling, whereas intrapreneurship is about developing your people on the inside and building almost like that internal sales team. Is that a way of looking at it?
That's absolutely correct.
Okay. Okay, perfect.
You're right about that.
Okay, I get it now. So rather than you as one person going out, you obviously have a maximum output. There's only so many networking events that you can physically attend, and there's only so much that you can do even online in terms of business development. So why not develop people who work for you? Even I could see this extending to like your colleagues, your network of vendors and suppliers, and basically people in your entire ecosystem. And these could all really serve as your internal sales team.
Right. Let me give you, if I could, a couple of solid, concrete examples.
Oh, yes, please.
Work, both offline and online. Offline being something as simple as having a telephone conversation with someone, whether it's one of a small business owner's staff or the business owner doing it themselves. They're talking to a potential client. Maybe it's after a meeting. Maybe it's trying to book a meeting with that client. One of the ways that edification comes into play is to ask clients questions specifically about their products, get to know their client, their particular products, and that actually helps. And at events now, when someone is at an event now, you're going to a networking event to do business development anyway. Everyone that's there certainly is a potential client. But to maximize that time, what we want to do is take the spotlight and keep it on every person you encounter, not talk about what I want or what I'm trying to sell or what I'm trying to present. So you meet Jerry at an event. Jerry's in the insurance business, and you exchange niceties. He gives you his business card. You take a look at it, and you go, Jerry, because this is fantastic. Give me an example of what might be one of your clients might look like. What's some of the characteristics? And what you're doing is you're engaging them in a conversation. They're talking about their company with doing stuff. And a part of that says, well, how can I help you? You could make it just that simple too. You don't got to make it complicated. You can just say, how can I help you? And that key phrase in and of itself presents that edification. So, because there's an old saying, Zig Ziglar says that nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. And this is every instance when we meet someone, that simple question, how can I help you, puts the spotlight on them to go, wow, this person really is paying attention to what they're interested in, what I'm doing. And everyone should be a gateway, and when people come over, maybe it's 2 people or 3 people, as you meet people, be a connector at the meetings. If you've met someone already and they happen to pass by, you're having a conversation, hey, Joe, have you met Jerry? Joe's in the widget business, and Jerry sells sailboats. It's that kind of thing that you're being a connector. That's a powerful thing. You're edifying those people. They love it because you're bringing them into the conversation. You'll follow up with them. And I bet what happens is, I know for a fact what happens is that people remember people that are going to help them. And this is the offline. Online, something as simple. Every person, people they predetermine that person may not be able to help me just because they're not aligned. Somebody is selling 𝗕𝗂𝘀𝗀𝘀𝗀𝗏 and I'm selling technology consulting. They're like, well, he or she can't help me, but that's not true. Every person is a gateway to many other people. And when we talk about minimizing our business development time, it should be a habit. Every time we meet people, within 24 to 48 hours, you send each person a LinkedIn invitation, and you say to them, make it personal. Don't use the canned version. That it was great to meet you. I'd like to be able to leverage my network to help present your services and products. This is how we build that trust, and we increase that, that 20-80 rule that says, 20% of our business comes, 80% of our business comes from 20% of our established client base and doing stuff. But that number will go up as we do it. This has worked. Tried and proven. Clients have raved about being able to do that. Also leveraging our own social media online as well to share out not just what we present with our products or services, sharing. Oh, this is how you and I actually met. We took turns retweeting or sharing a post on Facebook or LinkedIn. That is, again, it takes the spotlight, puts it on that person, and clients see someone that they're not doing business with. That builds trust, and that gets their attention with doing stuff. So those are some basic things that people can do to just start out with. And like I said, edification can be implemented. We've come in and done formal trainings. If somebody wants to engage us, that's fine. But edification, is something you can just start right away. And basically, it's just making sure that people are sincerely building each other up and not talking about what they haven't done. It's always the glass half full kind of approach with building people up, with doing stuff. We all have shortcomings, and could we get better at doing something? Yes, I know that would be true. But if we edification focuses on what the good parts of even that difficult coworker that does something annoying to us,
right?
And we can find and build people up with doing stuff, and that helps our being able to get clients, because the clients will start talking. Clients are going to start. If you want clients to start talking about your products and services to their clients or other people they're talking to, that you can't place a value on that type of word of mouth advertising, and that's what will happen.
That is for sure. Well, Carl, I want to take a quick break really quickly, and when we come back, I want to know what lessons and advice you would like to share with our audience. But let's quickly take a commercial break. Do you currently have more business than you can handle? Do you need to hire more people but don't have processes documented to train them? Behind the Facade, How to Structure Company Operations for Sustainable Success is a book that explains step by step how to create business infrastructure in your company so that you can hire the right people to do the right things in the right working conditions. It's the world's first book ever written about business infrastructure exclusively for small businesses. Visit behindthefasadebook.com to get your copy today. That's behindthefasadebook.com. And we are back with Carl Reid. I want to take a moment really quickly to kind of tie all of this back into business infrastructure. And if you are listening to this episode or this show for the first time, let me just quickly define for you what business infrastructure is. It is simply a system for how you link your people, processes, and your tools to ensure growth in a profitable and sustainable way. And so, Carl, before that break, you were sharing with us basically these different elements of business infrastructure. You were talking about the different people that are required to implement intrapreneurship within a company. You were also speaking about your edification process that you train your clients on. And I would imagine that I was thinking about, okay, if we had to tie in the different types of tools that are used in the edification process, both online and offline, one offline thing that I thought about is one thing I've always noticed about companies who are employees rather that are really proud of the companies that they work for is their swag. They'll wear T-shirts and they'll have all kinds of little goodies that are stamped with the logo of their employer. Is that also yet another way of building or boosting morale? Is that part of what that edification process could include?
Well, it could be. I mean, in terms of it being incentives, there's certainly way to incentivize things for employees, but those types of things that you see at events are more for, I think that they're for potential clients that are, stopping by at a table. If it's something functional, definitely if you do that, or a company does that, it has to be. That's why pens are always popular. Calendars are always popular. Why? People are going to use them every day. They see the company's name, calendar. They got to look at the date. They have it close by. They're looking at it all the time. So, and a T-shirt, of course, too. People, they definitely like those in terms of getting, potential clients.
Well, I'll share this with you, and I'm curious to get your thoughts or your feedback. So I've done a lot of work with Coca-Cola, and they're headquartered here where I am in Atlanta, and Carl is in New York, for those of you who are listening. And one thing that I've always noticed about anyone who works for that company, regardless of where they are in the world, they usually have some type of company representation on, let's say, for example, their LinkedIn profile. If you look at the LinkedIn profiles of Coca-Cola's employees, they're usually standing in front of a backdrop that has the big Coca-Cola logo in the background, or they're holding up a Coke bottle. Like, there's something to let you know, I'm proud that I work here, and let me show you. So I've always noticed that in comparison to some of these other really big companies that are out there. It's just always something that has been so striking to me. Yes.
I think that what you said is a very good point, because it lends itself to a people before profit concept, and certainly we know how large a company like Coca-Cola is, but that edifies. I think that's part of that edification process, and I think that the employees are proud to be able to do that because they feel included, being part of that process. They're not hiring. They don't have to hire actors to do it. These are people. They live their culture and their brand every day, and that makes it more human.
Yes, absolutely. Do you have any lessons that you've learned that you can share with us, or any specific advice to those who may be listening and they're thinking about maybe implementing some of the tips that you've shared?
Well, first thing is it's going to be, again, mindset that has to come from the top. Someone, the leader of the organization, whether it be the business owner or senior executive, that says, hey, this is something that we should try to do. And it can be, like I said, implemented immediately, and the results would be seen immediately. We've seen clients within a couple of weeks to maybe 90 days implementing this edification process with clients, vendors, strategic partners, and employees, and encouraging, again, even if something as simple as home. Let's not forget that edifying our children and our spouses, that's what I was talking about before, about starting at home. When we practice it at home, it transcends going to into our work and our business life as well. So it starts to become a natural habit. It's easy to form, to be able to get the results that we want in terms of, people, like you mentioned before, about people being able to pay more of attention to business development. You're not working in your business, you want to work on your business with doing stuff. So there's certainly a lot to be said for the end result of something as simple as edification, and edifying and encouraging and supporting and building people just to say something nice, and it's got to be a follow through with that and be consistent. And it'll catch on. People start doing it with each other, even down at the line staff level. If it's two partners, I have a business partner, and we do that too. It's that kind of thing that we look for something that, says, hey, you said that meeting you were at yesterday, that was phenomenal. I didn't think of that, and vice versa. It's something that gets contagious when people start doing it. And the thing is, it's easy to do. Basically, it's easy to say something nice to someone and make it sound, and be sincere about it. That's the key. It has to be sincere.
Well, with that in mind, are there some resources that you can share with us where we can learn more about the work that you do and just about this topic in general?
Yes, absolutely. I have a few resources that I wanted to share. I can share. I have a video that I did a while ago, and it feeds into this edification. It also talks about connecting people and it's called. There's a video on YouTube. If a person goes to YouTube, The name of the video is called "How to Gain Strength from Your Network in Challenging Times." Now that's a mouthful. If you type Carl E. Reid in YouTube, that video, amongst other videos, will pop up that I have out there. But the name of it is "How to Gain Strength in Your Network in Challenging Times."
Okay.
I also have an article on LinkedIn. It's called 10 Powerful LinkedIn Networking Tips, and it focuses on that edification process, creating gateways. It's actually a two-part article. It's it's got 10 tips in it, but they're broken into because it's a little bit lengthy.
Okay.
That's called 10 Powerful LinkedIn Networking Tips. And my book, 10 Powerful Networking Secrets of Influential People, there's in chapter 8, it goes through, the whole chapter is spent on the whole edification process, the dynamics of it, the different interactions that people may encounter, that they can, there's different scenarios. One's called ringleader, one's called daisy chain, tag team, and they're all explained. Even we talked about edifying our children and our spouse, that's covered in there. And that chapter is, we have found that people have bought the book mostly because this concept is kind of new to people. They want to get more information. That they're buying it, and the reviews even talk about the edification process. So, well worth the read.
That's awesome. Well, how can people get in touch with you, Carl?
They can email me if they like. My email address is carl@carlereid.com, carl@carlereid.com. Or you can call the office, 201-222-5390.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. You have definitely opened my eyes to edification, intrapreneurship, and I think sometimes it's also nice just to be able to put a word to things that you may already be doing.
Right.
Realize you're doing. So thank you for that. I never would have thought to actually give that a name. So I love the work that you're doing, and it's so important. And thank you.
Thank you so much too.
Thank you for stopping by. I really appreciate it.
You have a great day.
Now I want to talk to you, person listening to this right now. Have you ever thought about how you could better leverage your existing network of colleagues, vendors, suppliers, as well as your employees as an internal sales force? Wow, Carl has done an amazing job today of educating us about what intrapreneurship, and again, that is with an I and not an E, actually is, and talking to us very specifically about his edification process that he takes his clients through. I'm going to give a quick recap of exactly how he helps his clients in developing their own entrepreneurship programs and implementing this edification process. First, he says an intrapreneur is employed at a company but has an entrepreneur mindset. And he actually has a way to help his clients identify who those people are within a company. Intrapreneurship has the ability to help you as the business owner or as the manager or executive actually minimize the amount of time that you're spending on business development while maximizing the outcome at the bottom line. Another thing that Carl mentioned to us was really just explaining to us what he means by edification. It is nothing more than how you build a person up. It is the super glue that binds us together, and it's a low-cost way to create buzz for your company. And one thing that Carl mentioned is that in order for all of this to work, support has to come from the top, and he takes his clients through a whole orientation process to help them really make sure that this program is something that can take off and is very successful. He also warned us that in order for this to work, you have to be sincere, you have to be consistent. This is easy to do, and it's contagious, and it will eventually take on. Remember, people before profit. This was awesome. He's shared so much information. I'm sure you're going to want to download this episode and make sure you keep it in your library for future reference. If you want to learn more about Carl, his books, and the important work that he's doing, definitely email him. His email address, again, is Carl, and that's spelled with a C, not a K, at 𝗕𝗏𝗏𝐷.com. Also gave his phone number. We will have links to all of the information that he shared with us in the show notes at businessinfrastructure.tv. Here you'll also be able to subscribe to the show as well as, again, download this episode for your future reference. And while you're there, don't forget to let us know your feedback. Again, you can do this at businessinfrastructure.tv. Thank you so much for tuning in. And remember, stay focused, be encouraged. This entrepreneurial journey is a marathon and not a sprint.
Thank you for listening to Business Infrastructure, the podcast about curing back office blues with 𝗕𝗏𝗏𝗀𝘃𝗀𝗀𝗏𝗂. If you like what you've heard, do us a favor and subscribe, leave a rating and review, and more importantly, share with your colleagues and team members who could benefit from the information. Join us next week for another episode of Business Infrastructure with 𝗕𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗃𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗃𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀